My golden child sister ruined my birthday, and I finally told my family what I really thought about them. Hey Reddit, I'm Zara, 27, and I've always felt like the forgotten child in my family. My younger sister, Emma, 24, is the classic golden child, the one who can do no wrong in my parents' eyes, the one who always gets her way, and the one they constantly praise. For years, I've been pushed to the side, my accomplishments overlooked, and my feelings dismissed. But this year, on my birthday, things reached a breaking point. Emma's antics ruined what was supposed to be my special day, and I finally had enough. Here's the story of how my sister's drama destroyed my birthday and how I finally confronted my family about the years of favoritism. Growing up, my parents always made a big deal out of family. They liked to present us as a perfect, close-knit unit to the outside world, complete with holiday cards featuring our matching outfits and carefully curated social media posts that screamed picture perfect. But inside our house, things were far from perfect. My parents, especially my mom, had a soft spot for Emma. She was their golden girl, the one who could do no wrong. Emma was the kid with the perfect grades, the charm that won over every adult, and the natural talent for anything she tried. She was blonde, bubbly, and always knew how to work the room, flashing her wide smile and batting her blue eyes at just the right moment. Everyone adored her. And then there was me, Zara, the quieter, more reserved older sister who always felt like the family's afterthought. From a young age, Emma and I were treated differently. Emma was always the star, mom's little miracle baby who'd come along just as my parents were hitting their stride. She was the bright, shiny new toy in a family that had been content with just one child until then. She was the outgoing one, the one who always got extra attention at family gatherings and school events. Even in our baby photos, you could see the difference. Emma's album was filled with pictures, every milestone documented and celebrated, while mine was sparse, with only the obligatory moments captured. It was like my existence had been overshadowed by her arrival, and I quickly learned that no matter what I did, I'd never outshine my sister. As kids, Emma and I couldn't have been more different. I was the bookish, introverted one who loved to draw, write stories, and spend hours lost in my own world. My room was my sanctuary, filled with art supplies, sketchbooks, and the novels I devoured like candy. I didn't care much for attention, and I was happy doing my own thing. Emma, on the other hand, thrived on being the center of attention. She was always the life of the party, the one my parents paraded around at family gatherings like she was a prize. I used to sit in the background, quietly watching as they bragged about her latest accomplishments. Emma's dance recitals, her straight-A report cards, her awards, every achievement was celebrated with dinners, gifts, and endless praise. My achievements, no matter how big or small, were met with a polite nod and a "That's nice, Zara." The favoritism started early, and it was blatant in ways that were impossible to ignore. I remember one Christmas when I was 8, and Emma was 5. I'd spent months asking for a set of art supplies, a big case filled with paints, brushes, and every color pencil you could imagine. It was all I wanted. But when Christmas morning came, the art set wasn't there. Instead, there was a small box with a basic sketch pad and a couple of crayons. Emma, on the other hand, got everything she'd asked for and more: a shiny new bike, a dollhouse, and even an extra present because she'd been such a good girl that year. I didn't say anything, but I remember feeling crushed. My mom brushed it off, saying, "Emma's presents were more expensive this year, so we had to balance things out." It was a small thing, but it set the tone for the years to come. Emma always got the best, and I was left to make do with what was left over. It wasn't just about gifts, it was the way my parents' eyes lit up when Emma walked into a room, the way they always made excuses for her behavior, and the way they overlooked her flaws while magnifying mine. As we got older, the differences between us only became more pronounced. In high school, Emma was the cheerleader, the popular girl with a new boyfriend every month and a social life that kept her busy every weekend. She was the it girl, the one everyone wanted to be around. I was the quiet art kid, more interested in spending my afternoons at the library or working on my next big painting. I didn't mind being different, but it hurt when my parents compared us. They'd say things like, "Why can't you be more like Emma?" or "You should really try to be more outgoing like your sister." No matter what I did, it was never enough. Emma's drama often took center stage at home. If she was upset, the whole house felt it. My parents would rush to calm her down, to fix whatever problem was making her unhappy. I quickly learned that my role in the family was to stay out of the way, to be the easygoing daughter who didn't cause trouble. I became an expert at swallowing my feelings, burying my resentment, and pretending that I didn't care. But deep down, I did care. I cared a lot. There were so many times when I needed my parents but felt like there was no room for me. One year, during a particularly rough patch in high school, I was struggling with my grades. I was taking advanced classes, trying to balance my schoolwork with a part-time job, and feeling completely overwhelmed. I came home one night, exhausted and on the verge of tears, hoping for some support. Instead, I walked into a full-blown family celebration. Emma had just been named captain of the cheerleading squad, and my parents had thrown a mini-party in her honor, complete with balloons, cake, and a new outfit they'd bought her as a reward. I stood there in the doorway, feeling invisible. No one even noticed I'd come in. They were too busy fawning over Emma, congratulating her like she'd won the Nobel Prize. I quietly went to my room, shut the door, and cried. It wasn't just about the cheerleading, it was the realization that no matter what I did, I would never be Emma in their eyes. I struggled with the comparisons constantly. In art class, I was excelling, and my teachers would always tell me I had real talent. I even got invited to participate in a local art showcase, something that was a huge deal for me. I was so excited to tell my parents, hoping that for once, they'd be proud of me. But when I shared the news at dinner, they barely looked up from their plates. My mom nodded distractedly, and my dad muttered a quick "That's great, Zara," before asking Emma about her latest crush. It was like my achievements were background noise, something to acknowledge briefly before moving on to more important things, like Emma. When I was 16, I got my first part-time job at a local coffee shop. I was proud of myself, it felt like a step toward independence, and I loved the feeling of earning my own money. Emma, of course, had no interest in working, she was too busy with her social life and extracurriculars. But that didn't stop my parents from constantly bailing her out when she needed money for shopping, trips, or nights out. Meanwhile, I was paying for my own gas, my own clothes, and even helping out with my own school supplies. I never complained, I'd learned a long time ago that complaining got me nowhere, but it hurt to see my efforts go unrecognized while Emma was handed everything on a silver platter. The constant favoritism chipped away at me little by little, leaving me feeling resentful, unimportant, and perpetually second best. I tried so hard to be good, to be the daughter who didn't make waves, but it was exhausting. I bottled up my feelings, internalized the hurt, and convinced myself that I just had to try harder, that maybe if I was perfect, my parents would finally see me the way they saw Emma. But as I grew older, I realized that no amount of perfection would change things. My parents' love for Emma was unconditional and blinding, and no matter what I did, I would always be the supporting character in the story of their favorite daughter. This year, I was determined to make my birthday different. For once, I wanted a day that was just about me, a celebration where I didn't have to share the spotlight with Emma or feel like I was taking a back seat. I planned a small get-together at a local restaurant, inviting my closest friends and, of course, my family. I picked a place I loved, decorated with fairy lights and rustic charm, hoping for an intimate evening filled with good food, laughter, and a sense of belonging that I often craved but rarely found at home. I'd spent weeks organizing everything. I booked a private room, ordered a custom cake with my favorite flavors, and even put together a playlist of all the songs that made me feel happy. For once, I allowed myself to be excited. My friends were thrilled to celebrate with me, and I dared to hope that this would be the perfect night, the night I'd finally feel special, even if just for a few hours. The day started well. My friends and I spent the afternoon getting ready together, doing each other's hair and makeup, laughing as we reminisced about old times. I put on a new dress I'd bought just for the occasion, a flowy, deep blue gown that made me feel confident and beautiful. I even splurged on a pair of silver earrings I'd been eyeing for months. Tonight was supposed to be all about me, and I wanted to feel my best. As we drove to the restaurant, I felt a flicker of happiness I hadn't felt in a long time. When I arrived, my parents were already there, along with Emma and her boyfriend of the month, Tyler. I was a little surprised to see them early. Punctuality wasn't exactly their strong suit, but I took it as a good sign. My dad gave me a hug, and Mom complimented my dress, saying I looked lovely. Even Emma smiled and told me, "Happy birthday, sis." For a moment, I let myself believe that maybe, just maybe, things were finally changing. But it didn't take long for Emma to steal the spotlight. As everyone settled into their seats, Emma started telling a story about her latest escapade, a spontaneous trip to Miami that she and Tyler had taken the weekend before. She went on and on about the clubs they'd gone to, the celebrities they'd seen, and how Tyler had surprised her with a new bracelet. My friends tried to be polite, listening and nodding along, but I could tell they were uncomfortable. It was my birthday, and Emma was already making it all about her. I tried to steer the conversation back to the celebration, asking my parents about their week and chatting with my friends about our plans for the summer. But Emma wasn't done. She pulled out her phone and started showing everyone photos from her trip, pictures of her in a bikini by the pool, selfies with Tyler, and shots of expensive dinners. My mom was completely captivated, cooing over every picture and asking Emma about every detail. I sat there, quietly fuming. This was supposed to be my night, and Emma had hijacked it within minutes. I tried to stay calm, but the frustration was bubbling up inside me. I felt like I was 16 again, watching from the sidelines as Emma's drama took center stage. When the waiter came to take our orders, I hoped it would be a chance to redirect the evening. I smiled and told him about the special cake I'd ordered, asking if he could bring it out after dinner. He nodded and assured me it would be perfect. But just as I was about to order, Emma cut in. "Oh, by the way, I can't eat dairy anymore," she announced loudly, turning to the waiter. "I'm lactose intolerant now, so I can't have any of the cake. I'll need a separate dessert." I was stunned. Emma had never mentioned being lactose intolerant before, and it felt like just another way to pull the attention back to her. My parents immediately jumped in, fussing over Emma's new dietary restrictions and asking the waiter to bring her a special dessert instead. I tried to protest, saying the cake was a key part of my birthday, but it was clear no one was listening. Throughout the dinner, Emma continued to dominate the conversation. She kept interrupting people, talking over me, and even started flirting with the waiter, giggling and flipping her hair in that way she always did when she wanted something. My friends were visibly annoyed, and I could feel my blood boiling. This was supposed to be my night, my celebration, and Emma was turning it into her personal show. The final straw came when it was time for the cake. The waiter brought out the beautiful cake I'd ordered, candles lit, and everyone started to sing "Happy Birthday." But before I could blow out the candles, Emma suddenly jumped up, grabbing her stomach dramatically. "Oh my God, I don't feel well," she gasped, doubling over. "I think it's something I ate." Chaos erupted. My parents immediately rushed to Emma's side, fussing over her and asking if she needed to go to the hospital. The room was filled with a flurry of concerned voices, and in the midst of it all, my cake sat forgotten on the table, candles still flickering. My friends looked at me sympathetically, but I could tell they were just as stunned as I was. Emma continued to play up her supposed illness, groaning theatrically and clutching her stomach. Tyler offered to take her home, but not before my parents insisted on paying for everything and making sure Emma was comfortable. The entire scene was ridiculous, and I couldn't believe what was happening. My special night had been completely derailed, and once again, all the attention was on Emma. As my parents and Emma hurriedly left the restaurant, I sat there, staring at the cake I'd so carefully chosen, feeling a mix of anger, sadness, and betrayal. My birthday had turned into yet another event ruined by Emma's selfishness. I'd had enough. I drove home that night feeling numb. My friends tried to cheer me up, suggesting we go out for drinks or do something fun to salvage the night, but my heart wasn't in it. I just wanted to be alone. I hugged them goodbye and promised I'd call them later, then headed straight home. When I got back, the house was dark and quiet. My parents were still out with Emma, no doubt making sure she was okay and showering her with attention. I sat on my bed, staring at my phone, which was still filled with messages from friends wishing me a happy birthday. I should have felt grateful, but all I could think about was how my family had let me down again. I replayed the night in my head, over and over, feeling the sting of every slight and every moment Emma had stolen. It wasn't just about the party, it was about years of being overshadowed, ignored, and dismissed. I'd always tried to be the bigger person, to rise above it and not let Emma's antics get to me. But I was done being the doormat, the forgotten sister who never got her moment. It was time to confront my parents and tell them how I really felt. The next morning, I woke up early, fueled by a mix of anger and determination. I knew my parents would be at home, and I wasn't going to let another day go by without addressing what had happened. I drove over to their house, rehearsing what I was going to say in my head. I'd never been good at confrontation, but this time, I was ready. When I walked in, my mom was sitting at the kitchen table, scrolling through her phone. My dad was in the living room, watching TV. They looked up, surprised to see me. "Zara, honey, how are you?" my mom asked, her tone casual, like nothing had happened. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. "We need to talk about last night." My dad muted the TV, sensing that this wasn't just a casual visit. "What's on your mind?" I looked at them both, feeling the weight of years of resentment bubbling up inside me. "You guys ruined my birthday," I said bluntly. "Emma ruined my birthday, and you both let her." My mom's expression shifted to confusion. "What are you talking about?" "Emma wasn't feeling well." "No, Mom," I interrupted, my voice rising. "Emma wasn't feeling well because she couldn't stand not being the center of attention for once. She took over my entire birthday, made it all about her, and you both played right into it. Just like you always do." My parents exchanged glances, clearly taken aback. "Zara, that's not fair," my dad said, frowning. "Emma was genuinely sick. You're overreacting." I could feel my frustration boiling over. "I'm not overreacting. This isn't just about last night. It's about every time you've put Emma first, every time you've ignored me, and every time I've had to take a back seat because she's your favorite." My mom's face tightened. "Zara, you know we love you both equally." "Do you?" I shot back, my voice cracking. "Because it sure doesn't feel that way. Emma gets everything, your attention, your praise, your support, while I get ignored. I've spent my entire life trying to be good enough for you, but it's never enough. Not when Emma is around." There was a heavy silence as my words hung in the air. My mom looked down, her eyes brimming with tears, while my dad sat there, stunned. They'd never heard me speak like this before. I'd always been the quiet, easygoing daughter who didn't make waves. But I couldn't hold it in any longer. "I planned that birthday party because I wanted to feel special, just for one night," I continued, my voice trembling. "But you couldn't even give me that. You let Emma take over, like you always do, and you made me feel invisible." My mom finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "Zara, I'm sorry. I didn't realize." I shook my head, tears streaming down my face. "You never realize, Mom. And that's the problem." I turned and walked out, leaving them sitting there in stunned silence. I didn't know what would happen next, but I felt a strange sense of relief. For the first time in my life, I'd stood up for myself, and I didn't care about the fallout. In the days that followed, I didn't hear much from my parents or Emma. I figured they were processing everything I'd said, or maybe they were just too embarrassed to reach out. Either way, I needed the space. I focused on my job, spent time with my friends, and tried to move forward. It was hard, though. Every time I thought about my birthday, I felt a fresh wave of hurt. Then, one evening, my phone buzzed with a text from my mom. It was long, much longer than her usual messages, and I could tell she'd put a lot of thought into it. She apologized for everything, not just about my birthday but for the years of favoritism, the comparisons, and the way they'd always put Emma first. She admitted that they'd been wrong and that she never realized how deeply it had affected me. I sat there reading her message, my emotions all over the place. I wasn't sure if an apology was enough, but it was a start. I agreed to meet with my parents a few days later to talk things through. It wasn't easy, there were tears, long pauses, and a lot of uncomfortable truths, but it felt good to finally be honest. My parents promised to do better, and I promised to try and let go of some of the resentment I'd been holding onto for so long. As for Emma, she reached out too, but in her typical Emma way, it was more about saving face than a genuine apology. She told me she didn't realize how much her actions had affected me and that she was just being herself. I didn't expect Emma to change overnight, but I made it clear that things had to be different moving forward. I wasn't going to let her walk all over me anymore, and I wasn't going to keep quiet just to keep the peace. Over the next few months, my family and I worked on rebuilding our relationships. It wasn't perfect, and there were moments when old habits resurfaced, but we were all trying. I started setting boundaries with Emma, learning to speak up when she crossed the line, and my parents made a conscious effort to include me more. They even began celebrating my accomplishments, small steps, but steps in the right direction. I also started going to therapy, something I'd been considering for a while but never had the courage to do. I needed to unpack years of feeling overlooked, unseen, and unloved. My therapist helped me navigate the complexities of my family dynamic, teaching me how to assert myself and set boundaries without feeling guilty. I learned that it was okay to be angry, that my feelings were valid, and that I didn't have to minimize my pain just to make others comfortable. My birthday had been ruined, but it had also been a turning point. It forced me to confront the issues I'd buried for years and to demand the respect I deserved. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. Final update, moving forward and finding peace. Hey Reddit, it's Zara again. It's been nearly a year since my disastrous birthday, and I wanted to give an update. My relationship with my family is still a work in progress, but things are better. We've had a lot of tough conversations, and for the first time, I feel like my parents are truly listening. They've made an effort to include me more, to celebrate my successes, and to stop comparing me to Emma. It's not perfect, but it's a start. I've also been focusing on myself more, going back to my art, traveling, and spending time with people who genuinely appreciate me for who I am. I recently had my first solo art show, and it was a huge success. My parents came, and for the first time, I saw pride in their eyes that wasn't tied to something Emma had done. They were proud of me, just me, and it felt incredible. As for Emma, she's still Emma. She hasn't changed much, but I've learned to accept that. I can't control her actions, but I can control how I respond. I no longer feel the need to compete with her or to seek my parents' validation. I'm carving out my own path, and I'm finally at peace with who I am. I've realized that my worth isn't defined by my family's opinions or by how I measure up to Emma. I'm enough, just as I am, and I'm finally learning to believe that. To anyone out there who's dealing with a golden child sibling or feeling overshadowed, just know that you deserve to be seen and heard. It's okay to speak up, to set boundaries, and to demand the respect you deserve. You don't have to play a role that doesn't fit you just to keep the peace. Thanks for reading, and here's to standing up for yourself, finding your voice, and creating your own happiness.